I can't wait until they come back down. A couple of, like, having 3 Pi 4s, I think, would probably...
I really did think about the 400 too, because, I mean, they're a little more reasonable, I guess, as far as price tag. And, you know, you can do quite a bit with those too. It's just I didn't want the big extra bulk.
Yeah, and I thought about it too. I mean, like, I wonder if you could, like, if there's cases out there, if you took out the guts of it.
Yeah, probably.
Threw away the keyboard. It'd probably still be cheaper.
Aren't they like the compute module, but like a little different?
The last time I looked into one, it was like just a really long Pi 4.
Yeah.
But, and that was just to have all the connectors at the back.
Yeah, because they still have the header stuff, I think, available.
I think so. You have to have like a little breakout cable or something for it.
Yeah. But
and let me see, because certainly you can crack it open, right? Let me see. Coming up in this episode, the history of Raspberry Pi OS, what we've been doing with Pis, and we run something over the break. Welcome to Linux User Space. I am Leo.
And I am Dan.
Still and always.
Yeah, still the same.
Well, something's changed. Something's been going on. I don't know if we're looking to make a change, but I know Bruno has mentioned he's shook the boat, and I don't know if I like it.
Yeah, in the last live stream he did.
Why he shook the boat, and so just today he dropped in a video over a ZimaBoard SBC. Why would you do this when we're coming up to the Raspberry Pi episode? I don't know why you would do this.
I don't know, little single board thing. Yeah.
Right, but it's an x86 board.
It is.
Not an ARM board. Don't rock the boat.
Right.
But it's got me curious because he's kind of made a good point. You can't really buy a Raspberry Pi right now.
Yeah.
Well, not without a massive, massive markup. So for about the same price as a marked up Raspberry Pi 4 with all the bells and whistles, you can probably get your hands on one of these ZimaBoard SBCs.
But also stirred up in the last live stream were these NanoPi R2 or R4 things as well. And those are ARM based. They're like rock chips. So they got me wondering too, because they've got like 2 network ports on them. And
making them the exact right type of hardware for a router.
Yeah. And I've been pondering this one for a while. I mean, I've had my current router, which is great. I have no complaints. But it's a desktop computer. I mean, it's a smaller desktop computer, but it's still a desktop computer nonetheless. Mm-hmm. It's got an i5 in it with like 8 gig of RAM. So, I mean, it's like really powerful, but
with all the AES instructions for OpenVPN and WireGuard and everything else.
But I don't need that. Like, I mean, I find myself, I don't even open up ports anymore because I use Tailscale for things. And I don't even, like, it like those tunneled connections are happening without any firewall openings. And so I don't need a VPN and I don't need any of that stuff. So I just need a router.
So the 100 watts you're pulling from the wall probably aren't necessary because the router is not doing the encryption, decryption stuff.
Yeah, no, it's not. And like, I don't even have that much bandwidth, so I don't even need to, like, even if I had something that was of lesser, I wouldn't even be throttling my internet bandwidth anyway. So I just need something that can kind of do the basics. And you say, well, why don't you just get one of those home things? Well, I had one of those way back when, a long time ago, and everything, like you have to reboot it on a regular. And
was this before you fully embraced the nerd
Oh,
is that what you mean? Like you're talking like a Linksys thing or a Belkin thing, right?
Yeah. But even the best of those, I've found for other people, they get to the point where they start complaining about it, and I'm like, I got to reboot it all the time, and I'm like, yeah, it's time for a new one. And so they're just like little disposable things, and that's wasteful, and I don't want to do that.
And the in their defense, those Asus ones with like the 700 antennas, they look like the head crabs from Half-Life, and I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you just got to color it, you got to paint it, you got to take it outside, take off the plastic, and like paint it like a head crab, and then that would be kind of cool. Like at that point, I feel like you can have that router. You could just continue to use that router because it is a head crab. That's fine, but I really see the value in really owning the hardware and software stack of your router.
So that's the other thing. My wireless is separated from that, right? Because I have, UniFi APs.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you were a UniFi house. Okay. So am I.
Yeah, my APs are. And so that's separated, and all of that stuff's kind of extracted from the router itself. And so I don't need the horsepower for that either. Right. And so I don't know.
Is that running in a container or a VM or something? The software?
It is a container. It's an LXC container on my Proxmox now. I actually migrated it.
Of course it is.
I migrated it from a virtual machine to LXC container on my Proxmox, which that was I did that recently, and that was kind of a good experience. It's very easy to set up, obviously. So you just, you pull down the XML backup thing, and then you import it when you start up your new one, and you're off to the races again. So.
You're going to have to, so I've still been kind of knee deep in the Proxmox thing. So you're going to have to show me how to do this VM to container kind of conversion. And as soon as I said that, it was like the two muscle guys, doing the thing meme. And so, you're going to have to, over the break, you're going to have to, by the way, this is the last episode of
this season.
I don't know if you know this.
Well, you do now.
Person listening.
Yeah.
but you do now. This is the season finale, which is why we're totally not making any sense about anything right now. But so you're gonna have to show me this container thing. You're gonna have to show me over the break how to do this conversion so that I can also leverage the all-encompassing power of LXC. Because I hear so much about it.
It's pretty cool. I'll give you the high level. Basically, I just pulled down the Ubuntu template because that's what UniFi wants to run on. And so pulled that down and, got it all set up so I can use Ansible on that.
Nifty.
So then I can add, I have a playbook.
Oh, and I like how he says it, audience. I have a playbook.
I didn't create it, okay, but I did modify it a little bit, and then so I ran the playbook on the thing, and it set it all up, and then all I had to do was shut down the old one and turn on the new one and import the database back up, and that was it. So I didn't migrate anything. I actually just stood up a whole new machine. It would have been the same if I stood up a VM too. So
I was gonna say the last couple of times I did it, but I don't know what I did, but I had broken it. And I just nuked and paved and then readopted it.
Yep.
And I was like,
I didn't even
good
have
enough.
to readopt. It was like if when you import it, it knows the devices that you have on your system. And
but I started from scratch.
They find
because
it.
I am not smart.
Oh yeah, well I have a bunch of those. They're easy. They they're little XML files. They're like super simple.
That's cool. That's really cool.
So I want to get a new router. I'm right there. So I have a use case for this now, and it's got the wheels turning. ARM board, or something low powered that doesn't have fans. All
Trading
of that
the 100-watt desktop for a 3-watt friendly elect R2S, which I think is between the Pi 2 and Pi 3 in terms of performance.
Yep.
But there's also for $20 extra, there's an R4S that is more akin to the Pi 4, which would be enough without VPNing, which, as you mentioned, we don't do.
Right.
Both you and I don't do that. We offload that to something else.
Right.
The R4S would give you gigabit line speed. I think they were benching it at like 930 megabits,
which is plenty.
Plenty. Yeah, I think that exceeds my gig link already. Like I don't actually get the whole gig.
Yeah, there's other factors into that. Yeah,
and I say that it might just be my edge router.
It could be
not being able to handle.
That's probably about what that handles. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, this thing could really just have the horsepower of what I already have, which is another ARM chip, which is funny. But I want to embrace the ARM, and that is a good way to do it, an easy way to do it.
Well, I'm trying to score a couple wife approval points. How
do you do this?
Well, like I said, I got a full-size desktop sitting in the living room.
Think of all the pottery and plants you could put in its place, right?
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I could still have that for a fallback if, for whatever reason my little $80 investment doesn't pan out. Right? I can fall back to the desktop that's tried and true and works. So I'm pondering it. I really am.
It looks good, and you can get them on Amazon for a slight premium, but then we did the shipping calculation to get it here in less than 2 months. And then it wasn't really much of a premium. I think.
No, it was about the same, maybe even a little less on Amazon, actually.
Yeah, I think you saved about $8 getting it directly from Amazon, which saved you the shipping from China on these friendly elect boards. But, you got it. You can actually start playing with it. And, if we decide to do this over the break, which would be fun, we could actually have it in our hands soon-ish.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm still hovering over the buy now button. It
looks good.
It's got a real good possibility, honestly.
Well,
so
the most important thing, and then it's going to roll into a show if we ever get this done, is that these boards, the Friendly Elect R2S and R4S, are fully compatible, 100% compatible with IPFire, which is one of the most open firewall/router solutions built directly on top of Linux. Not taking bits of Linux and then doing things with them, but a full Linux stack from top to bottom. That's what IPFire is. So, if we get these boards, there's going to have to be an IPFire episode. We got to go into the history. We got to do the whole thing.
Yeah, it's got a good possibility. And I'll say one of our listeners, CubicleNate, he has got a few IPFire boxes out there.
He's an IPFire guy. It's the only distro I've ever known him to use that is not OpenSUSE. So
yeah. Honestly, it bring me into all Linux instead of, like, right now my router is BSD, right? So it's OPNsense. So is that good or bad? I don't know. Find out.
It's something. And so to finish it out, we have the ZimaBoard option now, which Bruno has mentioned to us.
Yep.
And there's a 2 gig of RAM version, a 4 gig of RAM version, and an 8 gig of RAM version. They all have a bit of internal storage, but I would suppose that, well, I guess you wouldn't have to, right? I mean, if you're just running a router on it, 32 gigs is probably enough, and 4 gigs is
they had
more
SATA,
than enough.
SATA connector on them. From what I saw, so you just put an external. It wouldn't be external; it'd be like an internal drive that's external, and give you all the storage you want.
Yeah, these are Intel chips, so they are x86 chips. This goes against the grain of the whole
a little bit
of this entire episode.
So they're still really low power, though. I mean, they're Celeron, so they're not going to be the power hungry Xeon or even your Ryzen AMD chip. It's not going to be any of that. It's a lot lower in power,
but
obviously
still
lower in performance too, but still pretty good.
Yeah, but still bringing in with it the decades of baggage that x86 commands. So, but this is again why I wanted to get away from x86 in general and go to ARM. But it's still enticing because for about the same price,
a little more, but not much.
Lots of performance with, tons of connections. You mentioned the SATA, and tons of USB, and I think there was an actual like PCI port or something.
Yeah,
that
they showed.
I saw.
plugged an external video card, like an NVIDIA video card into the thing.
So that makes me think,
cool.
like, could you do like Steam Deck style gaming on a TV with something like that? This is
maybe
this is opening some of the doors to just having a whole lot of fun. I mean, diving in and just embracing the whole nerd, all of it.
Yeah. So I don't know. That looks pretty interesting as well. And like, I could run my OPNsense stuff on it. I wouldn't have to transition to a different piece of software if I didn't want to.
That's one of the big benefits, because pfSense, OPNsense, whichever one you decide to side with on the BSD side over there, they don't run on ARM. So you would need an x86 chip. And that would, the ZimaBoard would fall under that umbrella, allowing you to continue to run OPNsense, which is what you know. And it's always a little contentious trying to move to something that you've never really played with before. But anyway, that's something that that both Dan and I got to figure out over this break.
Yeah. So that
what do we want to do?
The trip down the ARM lane is what sparked all that stuff for us, and here we are.
Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Well, dear audience, if you have a preference, do you run your router on an ARM thing? Do you just buy the grocery store special? What do you do? How do you run your stuff? How do you firewall? Do you do any of that? Do you actually even think about that at all? Does it matter that that's Linux at all? Well, if you have an opinion on that, you need to you need to let us know.
Let us know.
Help us decide. ZimaBoard, Friendly Elect, buy some other pre-configured hardware, or what? What do we do?
And if you like looking at our face, you can head over to YouTube if you haven't already. If you aren't right now, and subscribe. YouTube.com/Linux user space. Or if you just like the history bits and you like all the educational stuff, you can head over to Tilvids. And we've got a presence over there too. Tilvids.com/A/Linux user space. And if you really, really like us, maybe love us, we love you. You can give us $1 if you go over to Patreon. Patreon.com/Linux user space.
Computing in the 60s and early 70s was mostly relegated to the mainframe. Mini computers followed, then the microprocessor, which led to the microcomputer in the late 70s. Many options were available. From Canada, you had the Commodore PET. In the US, you had the Apple II, the Atari 400, and Tandy TRS-80. Hong Kong had the Video Genie, and England, the BBC Micro and Sinclair ZX81. Each had their many strengths, and weaknesses were everywhere. This was a revolution, after all. These machines stirred something in many folks that used them, whether it be by simply using them as early gaming consoles to play games or programming them from scratch. The era of the personal microcomputer had begun. A quick search or a question to someone you know with a few miles on them will find no shortage of anecdotes and nostalgia. There were, of course, favorites, same as Linux distros today, but the fact remains, all of these machines, and more, left their mark on the minds of folks that got the chance to use them, and on history as well. Through the 80s and the 90s, the micro part of microcomputer was dropped, and the more common personal computer was adopted. The things we were able to do with these personal computers increased tremendously year after year. And while there was certainly learning hardware and software to get your hands on, and the older 80s machines still existed, people were content enough to simply use software on a computer rather than program a computer. Or at the very least, tinker. One part of the micro that wasn't dropped from the collective conscious, at least in the UK, was the BBC Micro. Far outsold by the ZX Spectrum in homes, many British students that didn't have either, or maybe just had the Spectrum, still had plenty of access to BBC Micros, as 85% of British schools adopted them. The BBC Micro, even though it was outsold by the Spectrum, was the real catalyst for the Raspberry Pi. And this is the part of the story where we turn our attention a little over a decade forward. Around 2006, Eben Upton was working on one of his very first prototypes that would one day morph into the Raspberry Pi. It was an Atmel AT Mega 644 microcontroller clocked at 22.1 megahertz and 512K SRAM for data and frame buffer storage, and displayed graphics over an analog line to a TV. Fast forward again to 2011, in late June, Eben Upton announced the first alpha boards for the Raspberry Pi being sent to the manufacturer for production. And much like the Atmel build, it had an analog TV out, in addition to HDMI, of course. It's 2011 after all. It was about 20% larger than the final product that would eventually be called the Raspberry Pi. Like its inspiration, the BBC Micro, the Pi was to have various versions. First up, a $25 Model A version that had only 128 megs of RAM and lacked a network interface. And then the Model B at $35, which would up the RAM to 256 megabytes and include a network interface. And in August, the alpha boards returned. And on those boards ran Debian, a mixture of Debian Squeeze version 6 and the ever-up-to-date SID. Again in August, a competition was announced to determine the logo that the Raspberry Pi Foundation was to use on the Pis themselves, and just about everywhere else. Ultimately, it wasn't easy to decide. In early October, when the tallies were meant to be ready, the initial panel of judges was deadlocked. So, another batch of internal developers was added to break the tie. After lots of indecisiveness, Paul Beach's logo was chosen. And yes, it's the one you're thinking of. The logo was imagined from 32 buckyballs, with 11 of them visible. And the first Pi had a 32-bit processor using ARM11. Talk about serendipity. In February of 2012, the Debian hacking on the alpha boards culminated into a functional Debian Squeeze installation using LXDE for the desktop, Midori for the browser, and some development and multimedia tools. On the 1st of March, the Raspberry Pi is official. The Model B will be launching first, as there was a much higher demand for them, and then the Model A would follow later. Then, the operating system floodgates opened. A few days after launch, Arch Linux ARM, supporting the Raspberry Pi, is out in the wild. Then, after a little over a week's delay from its original launch date in February, Raspberry Pi Fedora Remix is ready as well. Quickly after that, OpenELEC, which is a special distro that runs XBMC, now known as Kodi, also announced support and a release. Then in early April, the first Raspbian SD Image was made available for testing. Shortly after, the raspberrypi.org domain name was registered. Mid-April, Raspberry Pis began hitting doorsteps. At the end of April, Quake III runs on a Raspberry Pi, which is a huge milestone for any hardware. That's it. The history's over. We need to go play a match.
Drop the mic, but it's on an ARM.
In June, a Debian Wheezy build hits the public net. And finally, mid-July, the efforts of Alex, Dom, Mike Thompson, Peter Green, Simon Hall, and many, many others. Raspbian was officially announced. It was the first Debian build to fully take advantage of the hard float operations within the CPU to make web browsing scream in comparison to early builds. In September, Turbo Mode is added to Raspi config within Raspbian, which allows warranty-safe overclocking for your Pi that relaxes when it hits the 85C threshold. Prior to this, overvolting did indeed void the warranty, noted by a baked-in hardware switch that activated if overvolting ever occurred. In October, Model B folks that hadn't received their Pi yet were surprised to hear that they were upgraded from 256 megs to 512 megs of RAM for free. All future Model Bs would also have 512 megs. And all that is just in 2012. In early February 2013 and slightly behind schedule, the Module A is finally available, at least in Europe. A few days later, Minecraft Pi Edition is released free of charge for anybody with a Pi. In May, the cameras and updates in Raspbian are released. And quickly after that, a Wayland preview is announced, allowing the slowdowns in X to be bypassed. The slowdowns were simply because X is not optimized for the graphics core in the built-in graphics processor. In June, Noobs 1.1. It's for noobs. Of course, it can install Raspbian for you, but it can also install a host of other things too. OpenELEC, ArchArm, and a few others. Sometimes the easy way is the best way. In September, Noobs 1.3 is released with the ability to install more than one operating system on the SD card. Soon after, a Noobs Lite option with a 20 megabyte footprint that downloaded only the system images requested was released. In October, the Pi NoIR or Noir is now available for nighttime picture taking. In 2014, no April Fool's Day is complete without a joke. Raspberry Pi took us back to the 80s with the green on black design with red links. Take a look in archive.org if you're curious what that looked like. But the next day, they really did a website revamp. Link in the show notes if you want to see what that looked like. In April, the Raspberry Pi Compute module is announced without all the fancy ports and doodads, but still using the same ARM chip, and slots into a fancy I/O board like a stick of RAM. Really nifty if the previous form factor was a problem. Development kits were available in June. On July 14th, the new Raspberry Pi B Plus is launched with 512 megs of RAM, more GPIO pins, more USB ports, micro SD, less power consumption, and better audio. 2 weeks later, the hat, that is, hardware attached on top spec, is announced as an attempt to usher in easy hardware additions to the B Plus, with its 40 GPIO pin set as opposed to the previous 26 on the Model A and B. In September, after 8 months of hard work, Midori will be dropped in Raspbian in favor of GNOME Web, or Epiphany, to take advantage of hardware-accelerated video decoding and faster scrolling. As well, Noobs drops all distros except for Raspbian on the pre-installed image. However, the other distros can still be network installed. This was done to slim down the Noobs image size to fit on 4 GB cards. In November, the Model A Plus is announced at $20. Still without a network interface, but now with the same 40-pin GPIO header as the B Plus. In early February of 2015, the Raspberry Pi 2, still at $35, is launched. This is a huge upgrade from the first run and comes with a 900 MHz quad-core ARM Cortex-A7, which offers more than 5 times the performance of the B+, and double the RAM at 1 GB. And since this is an ARM version 7 chip, it opens the door to running tons more Linux operating systems, and even the slimmed-down ARM version of Windows 10. All at the exact same form factor as the previous models. Soon after launch, we learned that the Raspberry Pi 2 was sensitive to xenon-based camera flashes. It would hang when exposed to these flashes, not outright crash, which made the situation quite curious, but frustrating. In just a day, the forum sleuths narrowed it down. Later in February, the Raspberry Pi becomes the best-selling British computer ever at 5 million units sold, just surpassing the Spectrum ZX series, and long since surpassing its inspiration, the BBC Micro, after 1.5 million units were sold. In September, Raspbian finally leaves Wheezy behind and rebases on Debian 8, Jessie, and makes a pretty significant change. Up to this point, Raspbian would boot to the command line, but as all other modern computers, after this upgrade, the desktop will be the default landing pad. Visually, GTK2 is slowly being dropped in favor of GTK3 in many apps, so things get a bit of a facelift in the upgrade too. And that's just the surface. Because it's such a big upgrade, it's recommended to install from scratch. In November, the Raspberry Pi Zero lands. It's basically the original Pi B+, but with a slightly faster CPU, micro USB instead of full-sized, and a mini HDMI port. And it's tiny. And $5. On the last day of February 2016, and a little over a year since the Raspberry Pi 2, they did it again with the Raspberry Pi 3. The big upgrades here were onboard Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and a CPU upgrade to a 64-bit ARM Cortex A53 CPU at 1.2 GHz. That puts it about 50% faster than the Raspberry Pi 2, and it's apparently fast enough to run some simple servers. On launch day, about 5% of website traffic for raspberrypi.org was served up by a Pi 3. It lasted a whole 12 hours, serving up 1.5 million requests before the kernel panicked and the Pi crashed. No Pis were irreparably harmed in the serving of those assets. In May, after being out of the Pi Zero for a little while, they returned, but with a new trick, a camera connector. And later in August, while it's notable that Docker has been running on various Pi operating systems up until this point, Raspbian is now a fully official platform for Docker. On September 8th, the Raspberry Pi platform surpasses 10 million sold, which marks its doubling of the previous Sinclair ZX record of 5 million. Later in the month, Pixel, the new desktop environment for Raspbian. It stands for the Pi Improved X Windows Environment Lightweight. A little forced if you ask me, but at least it's not recursive. Almost everything was reimagined. No more boot messages, and instead a clean welcome screen giving you release information. New icons, new wallpaper, new windows with a light curve on top, and a flat design. Better font rendering, and a slick login screen. One other big change was GNOME Web. It's out, and Chromium is in, which improves video playback yet again. This year, after a 64-bit capable Pi 3 was launched, we saw a 64-bit kernel which Ubuntu and Fedora were running on unofficially. But in November, and for the very first time, SUSE released a 64-bit SUSE Linux Enterprise server for the Raspberry Pi. It's not Raspbian, but it is a first. And as an early Christmas present, the desktop environment Pixel is now available for any machine that can run Debian Jessie. During its initial testing, it'll only be available as a live USB. In mid-January of 2017, the Compute Module 3 is released, same as the previous Module 1. It's only 1 millimeter taller and runs a good bit hotter, but the same idea applies. And the next month, the Pi Zero W is added to the lineup. Same as before, including camera attachment, but with wireless and Bluetooth built right in. In June, a little after Debian Stretch is released, Raspbian is still based on Debian Jessie, which includes an offline version of Scratch and Thonny, Visually, there was an adjustment to the default icon set, and promises were made that rebasing on stretch is in the works. And like clockwork, the August update brings the switch to Debian Stretch. With this change, the audio stack is switched from Pulse Audio to ALSA. Also included is a patch for the Broadcom chipset that fixes a vulnerability for code execution that allows an attacker to take over the chipset. And to round out the year, the release for PCs and Macs that was released the previous year is now also rebased on Stretch. In January of 2018, the new version of the Pi 0W came to us with pre-soldered headers, earning it the Pi 0WH designation. Everything else about it was the same. Then followed the Pi 3B Plus in mid-March. This Pi comes with an updated processor with a built-in heat spreader to allow the chip to hit higher frequencies at lower voltages to reduce power consumption. This, paired with the new Wi-Fi and Bluetooth combo chip, also leads to higher transmission rates over wireless. It brought along a new OS, which came with better support for different screen resolutions. The Appearance Settings application provides a GUI to change things like the resolution easily, and a pixel doubling option is added for high-resolution displays. Another OS update in June. Now the setup wizard runs automatically on first start. If you need to run it later, a sudo piwiz will do that for you. Recommended software is like a light software store, and QPDF View is the new PDF viewer replacing XPDF, and a bunch of other bug fixes. The Pi 3 Model A Plus hit shelves in November, and all the guts of the B Plus, but in a smaller form factor. At the beginning of 2019, in late January, the Compute Module 3 Plus lands, and as all the modules before it, slots into I/O boards with the same basic feature set as the previous A Plus and B Plus boards. In late June, the Raspberry Pi 4 goes on sale for $35 for the 1 gig model, $45 for the 2 gig model, and $55 for the 4 gig model. Full gigabit Ethernet, Bluetooth 5.0, a pair of USB 3.0 ports, dual monitor support over micro HDMI, and the Cortex A73 chip that boasts 3 times the performance over the Pi 3. And an overhauled OS gets shipped with it. That overhaul includes a rebase of Raspbian to Debian 10 Buster. This was almost a full 2 weeks before Debian 10 itself released. The desktop was decluttered a bit and switched to a gray theme rather than the original light blue. At the beginning of February 2020, a new Raspbian release landed as a mostly bug-fix release. The Places menu makes it back to the file manager, new scratch blocks make an appearance, and more cleanup. We also see lots of Orca screen reader improvements. At the end of April, a new official 12.3 megapixel high-quality camera hits the streets and can take some stunning pictures with the attachable lenses. And a month later, after lots of speculation on the misprint in the Pi 4 manual, in May, the 8 gigabyte version of the Raspberry Pi 4 is now on sale. All the same guts, but with twice the memory of the highest, at the time, option. All at $75. Around this time, the Raspbian name has been axed. The Raspberry Pi official operating system is thusly called Raspberry Pi OS. In October, the Compute Module 4 lands with all the power that comes with it. Then in November, the Raspberry Pi 400, a Pi 4 built into a keyboard with much the same expansion, and it runs a little cooler and a little faster. And speaking of cooler, a case fan launched shortly after to keep the stock Pi 4 chill. In December, the Raspberry Pi OS release switched back to Pulse Audio from ALSA. This vastly improves the user experience for switching audio outputs and brings along the capability for Bluetooth audio. Additionally, Cups is added for better printing capabilities and easy management. For folks that need accessibility features, full support for Orca screen reader is added. At the beginning of 2021, with an already stretched supply chain, demand rose for Pis across the board, and unfortunately dried up all Pi availability. This was followed up by the release of the Raspberry Pi Pico for $4. In October, the shortage couldn't be ignored any longer. With a couple of price increases, Pi users knew they were going to be in for a stagnant ride. The issues and price increases are promised to be temporary. Later in October, the Raspberry Pi Zero 2W, what a mouthful, is now on sale for $15 using the brain of the Raspberry Pi 3. Unfortunately, as soon as they landed, they were snapped up, only to be seen by something like our Pi locator. The November release of Raspberry Pi OS brings in a huge shift for the desktop from GTK2 to GTK3. It's also a switch on the Debian base from Buster to Bullseye. The shift to GTK3 also brings along Mutter as the compositor. An updater plugin and improved notifications are also in this release. In February of 2022, while other 64-bit operating systems for the Pi 4 had released, the long-awaited Raspberry Pi OS in 64-bit finally hits the mirrors. In early April, a supply chain update. Industrial and enterprise customers are going to be prioritized, going against their original stated mission of being for the home user or tinkerer. And many of those tinkerers were not pleased with the decision. But their market share is probably much smaller than the big companies. Another in April, another release of Raspberry Pi OS. Within, a new wizard where you can create your user on the first run. Prior releases started with the Pi user. And hey, the Imager tool can do that for you too if you want something headless. Or you can set it in a user.conf file on the boot partition. If you want to rename that Pi user from a previous version, there is a new rename user tool to do that. Wayland makes a debut as an option using Raspi config. In June, the Raspberry Pi Pico W at $6 debuts, bringing back the Pico muscle, but now with a Wi-Fi chip on board. In September, another update to Raspberry Pi OS that brought with it a searchable main menu, better audio input control, keyboard shortcuts like Ctrl-Alt-B for the Bluetooth menu, and network manager compatibility. And another supply chain update in December, noting that the 0W, Pi 4 2GB and 4GB variants are making the rounds and a hopeful outlook for the middle of 2023. In the first days of 2023, the Raspberry Pi Camera Module 3 is released with 4 variants, all starting at $25. A normal, no IR or noir, and wide-angle versions of each, all at 11.9 megapixels, autofocus, and field of view adjustments. And as far as hardware goes, that's about it, until now. And Raspberry Pi OS, keeping up with Debian.
You can catch all the great topics as they unfold on our subreddit or our news channel on Discord. linuxuserspace.show/reddit or linuxuserspace.show/discord. That'll get you there. And if those aren't your jam, you can always reach out to us on Mastodon, Telegram, Matrix, Twitch. We've got some video over there that we do live streaming, and we've got Twitter. So you can catch all those linuxuserspace.show/your thing, and you'll find us.
Don't think I didn't catch the jam part of that. Raspberry jam. Get out of here. Get out of here. It's too much. Too much raspberry. So, as far as Raspberry Jam goes, how did you fare? I don't even know. Was it a requirement to use Raspberry Pi OS, or were we content with just running a Pi? I don't even know that we set forth the rules.
I don't think we had a lot of rules with it. You're right, but I did run it. I do, like, I don't know. I have it running here on a little Pi 3. I ran the desktop version. Mm-hmm. I have another one here that we were going to do a project with, and I was going to put SyncThing on, and I never did that. But like, I'm sorry.
We talked about that multiple episodes ago, Dan.
I know. I even bought like an external drive case for. I've got a 3.5-inch, full size 3.5-inch hard drive, and I bought a little external case that's like USB.
Okay, so, that drive has external power too, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Woo.
Yep. Yeah, it does. And so I bought that because that's going to be, just kind of my SyncThing backup, if you will.
I gotcha.
So I've got SyncThing running on my desktop. I've got SyncThing running in a VM. And I'm going to use this one as my SyncThing, other SyncThing that runs all the time.
So backups equals backups minus 1, mm-hmm. right? So I'll have a SyncThing, you have a SyncThing, you have another
mm-hmm.
SyncThing.
Yep.
So is it SyncThing equals SyncThing minus 1? So we have two SyncThings, right?
I guess so. Well, I plan on putting some of my own personal stuff on it too, because that way I can just kind of have it sync around between all three of them. I don't have to do anything to do that. I just drag it into the folder and it'll figure it out, right? Because that's the great thing about SyncThing.
Right. Well, that's kind of how I handle my Nextcloud stuff, but I don't use SyncThing for that. I just use rsync, and it's just a nightly backup every night for every change. So that is pretty cool. I do like that a whole lot, but
it seems simple. So that's kind of where I was going with it.
How dare you not do the SyncThing thing for the Raspberry Pi episode? I am so disappointed. It's the season finale, Dan.
I'm apologetic, but I did run the desktop on one of these. I got one of these, and I ran the desktop, and it was fine. Like it.
Okay, I'll
fine.
forgive you for that.
But I went above and beyond here, because like what I also did was I actually downloaded the desktop version and ran it on a laptop. And I actually did it quite a bit. It's 32-bit though, so
okay, so 3.25 gigs of RAM tops.
Well, the machine only had 4, so it was a fine machine for it.
It worked out.
It did work out. It was okay, but you run into some struggles with that, right? Because it's 32-bit, and things like Flatpak won't run on that.
No,
and so that's
so you're really just kind of stuck with whatever Raspbian, Raspberry Pi OS provides in the repositories there, right?
Which is a lot. Don't get me wrong. It's just some of those things are a little behind because that's how Debian works. But if you were gonna give it to someone and have them do like some scratch programming on it or something,
you wouldn't notice.
You would not know, and it's kind of great, and you can just install it on anything, and I think that's pretty cool.
Cool. Yeah. So what version of Debian was that OS based on?
I believe it was Bullseye. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Bullseye. Yeah.
That's 11?
11, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So it's the current released version, but 12 is coming soon, right? So it's getting
wink.
It's getting longer, right? I mean, we're the full 2 years into that release, so things have been hanging around for a little while. So yeah, but they haven't released anything in the 2 years for the desktops, and they never released a 64-bit version that I saw. So that's a little unfortunate, I feel like.
Well, there is a 64-bit version of Raspberry Pi OS, but not released for
the Raspberry Pis. Yeah, just not
regular
for the x86 or 64 x86 64-bit.
And there were some efforts to actually port Pixel. Okay, here's actually one thing that I really kind of wish that I could take advantage of. I want to see the Pixel desktop
Yep.
ported over. It's got to be 64-bit now because there is a Raspberry Pi OS 64-bit build. So I know that there's 64-bit ARM builds of it. But what I would like to see is a Fedora remix with Pixel, and Ubuntu remix with Pixel, and maybe its own
everybody
thing.
That's got LXDE, just get rid of that and run Pixel, because essentially it picked up where LXDE left off and carried on with that, and made improvements.
Yeah, I know that Pixel has some Wayland compatibility. I know that there's Wayland is there, but just like LXDE, it is steeped in the history of X, so it runs best on X.
It does run best on X, but it will run Wayland because it has Mutter as the compositor. So, and early days of GNOME. Obviously, they've had Wayland for quite a long time. So
and I know there were some experiments with Pixel and running on Wayland, and the reason they did that was to improve the performance of X by using Wayland, and using the X Wayland kind of go between to run those X apps to get better performance on the desktop. That was the whole reason that Wayland was even an option. To get more performance.
Right. I didn't try that. Like I feel like I missed that. I guess I probably should have ran the Raspberry config thing and tried some Wayland stuff just to see how that worked out, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I just ran it stock, and it runs well. It does a lot of things. It's clean. So they do modify LXDE quite a bit. They clean out a lot of things. They strip out a whole bunch of stuff. And so it's very clean and doesn't get you confused, which I think is great for the target audience, right? So I really love, much like Endless, I love the mission that they have, whether they state it or not. It's similar ideas, right? Put this in the hands of everyone, and then let them create stuff right out of the gate. Like, you see a lot of kids in schools and hobbyists all grab these things, and it's one of the things that's brought Linux to the masses, I feel like.
So I got a prediction now, because we brought up Endless. I think with the Raspberry Pi 5, it's going to have enough CPU and GPU horsepower to run GNOME.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
What's going to end up happening? Here's my prediction. I don't know how long it's going to take, but mark my words, it was going to happen. The Raspberry Pi Foundation is going to try and take the look and feel of Pixel and add it to the GNOME stack. They're going to do the whole extension thing, get that going, and run into the same thing that Endless was running into, where it's like, maybe we shouldn't be doing the extension thing. Maybe we should just be hacking directly onto GNOME.
Maybe.
And so the Raspberry Pi Foundation converges with the Endless OS Foundation and starts hacking away on GNOME.
Yeah.
And so the things that made Pixel nice are now added directly into GNOME. And now we have this huge conversion of just all of these foundations, all of these companies, all of these people, all of this manpower going into GNOME, and then you have a de facto Linux standard in GNOME.
There's the hot take from Leo right there. Yeah.
Whoo! Burning hot take. I don't know how long it's going to take. This could be 2030 for all I know. But if GNOME is still around and Endless is still hacking on it, Raspberry Pi is coming for you.
We're
going to be on the Raspberry Pi 7 by then.
The year of the Linux desktop, and it'll run GNOME. You heard it here first, folks.
Well, you heard it here first. That's it.
So, I listen, I really do love what they've done. I mean, it can't be overstated, I don't think, where this little device and all of the other ones have taken the world of Linux and the learning too. I mean, it's impressive, I feel like. What are we up to, like almost 50 million sold, I think, or 40 some million.
Is it that high?
It's like 40 some million, I think. It's something ridiculous like that. Oh my God.
I didn't get a final tally on that. That's insane.
I might be making that up, but it's a lot, right? It's insane. It's insane.
Well, if we haven't hit that number yet, it's probably coming soon.
Yeah.
We were just talking about that the industrial and enterprise sectors are the ones that are going to be prioritized.
Yeah.
So it does not surprise me that much that we're at least close to a number like that.
Yeah, I think
you're talking about thousands of units at a time sold to be deployed in one go.
I feel like it was one of those Wikipedia pages I was on that said, there was at least 40 million, and that was like a couple of years ago kind of thing.
Wow.
That is a year ago, maybe. But
that is an astounding number, but it doesn't really surprise me that much.
No, not when you think about it. So that's a lot of people that have had interaction with something, even if they don't know it. Yeah.
It's kind of a shame that those things don't run browsers all the time, because then you would have those stats on the web, right? Where Linux is like just some huge outsized percentage of market share at that point. All right, industrial and enterprise users of Raspberry Pi, just open up a browser sometimes. Automate it. Automate it and go to linuxuserspace.show so that you can show the stats on this.
Well, that'd be cool. Or they could just run some stripped down Steam thing so that it looks like all the everybody's running Linux that's using Steam. So you get the Steam survey.
Fine.
Yeah,
that's fine too.
Have a bot.
I'll take that.
Bot answer the questions. Yeah, that'd be all right.
Yeah, but this is something that I've suspected for a very, very long time, that Linux does outpace everything else. It's just not in desktop.
Yeah,
it's everywhere else. Like the fact that Azure, Microsoft Azure, runs way more Linux than it does Windows is the only proof you should need that Linux has already won, just not on the desktop.
Yeah, no, it's definitely very popular, but this has put a lot of eyes on Linux and Linux things and programming, all of that stuff. So
Scratch is huge. It's so good.
Scratch is huge. Even like VS Code. Remember that was a thing for a little while there.
Yes.
That was getting installed, or at least the repository was, and people were grumping and complaining. But ultimately, it means people are going to be developing software and stuff. So I mean,
right?
Let them go. Just all that stuff. I feel like it's pretty great. And then like we remarked today, we were looking at the news feed from RaspberryPi.com, and it has something just about every day. There's a project on there.
Yep.
People doing stuff, little small displays and little things running in the corner, keeping track of temperatures, all sorts of sensors. It's just mind-boggling when you think about it.
Yeah, I still want. So I have a Pi 0W, not the Pi 02W, the first one. And I've been meaning to do something with that for a very, very long time, and I think I've always wanted to do the Game Boy kind of thingy.
Yeah.
I want to say that there is one that is pretty tried and true at this point. I think they call it the Pi Girl.
Pi Girl, yeah.
I think that's its name.
I believe you're correct. Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, I really want to do that. Just get a little 640 by 480 screen and put that into a nice. I have a 3D printer now, so over the break I'll be setting that up and playing around with that a whole lot.
Nice.
Especially printing out like D&D minis, because I mean, imagination can only take you so far.
Exactly.
But what I also want to do is I want to print a Game Boy-ish case and then use that Pi Zero to shove in there and make myself a little portable handheld, maybe AA, AAA powered kind of thing. I don't know how many hours I get out of that, but even if it's like 2 to 4 hours out of 3 or 4 AA's, if I'm not mistaken, the original...
That's about all I ever got up on a Game Boy, yeah.
Yeah, it was about 4 AA's, and it only lasted you a few hours. So
yeah,
if I can get anywhere near that, that will be fantastic, because we're talking, full color LCD screen here, 16 million colors out here.
Yeah, the old ones were black and white. Yeah.
I mean, the Super Nintendo wasn't even capable of that in the first place.
Nope.
So anyway, that's probably something that you're going to see
Well,
for me
cool.
soon enough. But as far as the other Pi stuff that I'm running a lot of Pi stuff. I've been infatuated with the Pi ever since it came out.
Same here.
I bought a Pi 1. Definitely wasn't good for a desktop, but
No.
it certainly got simple things going, and I ran a whole heck of a lot of things on that Pi 1. But because of its software kind of unavailability, right? Like it was an ARM 6 chip, and
Right.
everything just got amazing with the ARM version 7. Like
7,
Ubuntu was available
It
at
blew
that
up.
point.
Yep.
So yeah, so my Pi 2 currently running sync thing between me and
Mhm.
Dan. I've got a Pi 3 that's running Git T for me right now through Docker. Fantastic. And then I've got
That's
a Pi
cool.
4 that is running Docker as well. That's running my fresh RSS.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I know that at least with the Pi 4, there's a ton of headroom left. There is a ton of room left. And I know that it can do the same on the Pi 3 as well. So
Yeah, they're pretty capable.
I'm looking to add more stuff to these little Pis. Do I need more? No. Will I buy more when they're available?
Well, yeah,
you better believe it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have to. I don't think there's any other way than posting on a forum, right, to show that I need more Pis, faster Pis, better Pis, more plugs on a Pi than to just buy Pis. So I'm going to have some, and they're just going to be doing all kinds of things all over the place for me.
So you mentioned the Game Boy thing and whatever. I have one of those Pi 0Ws as well. I have it at work. I wish I had brought it home. But so it is it's my little retro gaming machine
it already does it for you.
That I break out at lunchtime. Yeah, so I bought one of the Adafruit Joy bonnets. And I put it on the 0W. And then you got two cables. You got power and you got your video. And I connect that up to my monitor. And, that's my lunchtime Game Boy games or NES games. I can play some,
That's super cool. Yeah.
Play those. And so the little Joy bonnet is actually not bad. It's roughly the same width as your 3, right? So it's got a little thing, Joy thing on the left side, and then it's got your buttons on the right, and it's not a bad form factor. It's thin, fits pretty good. Yeah.
So as far as what I'd be looking at, you're talking about, this is a controller.
Yeah, it's like a controller. Yeah, exactly.
And you plug it up to a monitor.
Monitor, TV, whatever
screen.
You got. Yep.
Yeah. That's really cool. So I need mine to be fully portable. I know that they're not.
Yeah, mine's not portable. I got to plug it in, but yeah.
Yeah, I know that you could probably get like a lithium polymer battery or something like that and get some real good juice out of something like that.
Right.
And it's fairly exchangeable.
Right.
Especially as like new chemistry comes out in some of those batteries, you can get some better battery life. But yeah, so I want that in a portable form factor.
Yeah, I get it. No, absolutely.
Just so I could chuck it in a bag and go, and not have to worry about where I'm going to find my next 24-inch monitor to plug into so I can play some games.
Well, I got the Steam Deck for that now, but I mean,
true.
But I mean, at work, I've always got that there, and so, like I said, I break it out at lunchtime. Not all the time, but sometimes.
Yeah,
just to break away from work for a little bit and reset the mind, and then I can get back to it again.
Oh, you got to do that. Mm-hmm. It's I've looked at pages of config or code or whatever, and if you don't look away from that for at least 30 minutes,
that's all you ever see.
You will miss all kinds of things, all kinds of terrible things. Like this is the thing that has been plaguing you all day. You won't see it.
Yeah.
You need a fresh pair of eyes, and playing some Game Boy is a good way to do that.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. It's like the old CRT monitors where if you left it on that image for too long, it was burned in. Well, your eyes do the same thing.
Yep. It's a weird brain thing, man. I have done it multiple times. If you don't take a break, you'll miss it. You'll miss the forest from the trees. Just it's crazy how that works. But anyway, So I want more Pis. I love running Pis. So we were talking about going x86 maybe using the what was the name of that thing? Hang on, let me see. Let me get up here. The ZimaBoard SBC. All right. I will never lose my love for ARM until the next version of ARM comes out.
Yeah.
These Pis are, have enough support in the community and have enough software availability and just run so well and so cheaply.
I think the only bummer is the availability right now.
And I'm fully content to wait.
Yep.
But if somebody says, "Oh, I got a drawer full of Pis that I don't want anymore," you let me know.
Sure.
I will pay you to ship them to me. If you're just going to trash them or they're just going to languish in a drawer, send them to me.
Yeah. I mean, we're doing stuff with them. So, yeah, absolutely.
I will play with them all day long. I'll make you content, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do a whole thing. That's perfectly fine with me. But and while I might end up with a ZimaBoard eventually,
sure.
I won't lose the love for the Pi. I won't.
No. They're not going away.
Yeah, I'm not throwing them away. They're not going to just collect dust. They will be put to use. And so whenever the Pi 4 is back in stock, like at normal price, and when the Pi 5 comes out, you better believe I'm going to buy both.
Yeah.
100%. These things are fantastic. What I want to do ultimately is, I know we can't do that with desktop just yet. Mac is getting close, but we can't do it with the desktop just yet. As far as, low power consumption, high CPU capability. I can't get rid of those x86 boxes yet. But everywhere else, I want to get rid of it. I just want to be done with x86. I want this thing to sip power from the wall and do all the things I would normally do on an x86 box anyway.
Yeah, I think as software availability happens for ARM-based stuff, you can get to that reality. It's a little ways away, potentially, but we're definitely getting closer.
Yeah, for full workstation, I don't think we're there yet. For this job, Discord doesn't work, but, the recording stuff works. A lot of pretty much everything else works. So if, we might be able to, if we swapped from this to maybe something web-based, I guess, like fully web-based, we might be able to get away with doing the video stuff.
I don't know how many of those things you can stack up before you start getting into performance problems. Too,
right, exactly. So maybe the Raspberry Pi 5, maybe at that point.
Yeah, exactly. That might be the difference maker.
Have a real workstation or something like that. But as of right now, it's something I want, but not quite something I can have just yet.
Yeah. I think if you were doing recording on your own of your own content without doing the collaboration bits.
Oh, you can. I've done it.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. No, and it would be a great tool for that. Great tool.
Yep. You can get it done on a Pi 4 100%. They're without reservation. If you're just recording at home alone, 100% you can get it done on a Pi 4 right now. Yeah.
I'm excited for the Pi future.
Me too. Just supply chain. Just get it. Bring it. Just get it to I want to buy one.
All right. You can catch all the links at our website, linuxuserspace.show. And if you want to, give us some feedback, get a hold of us. You can try an email, contact@linuxuserspace.show.
These people, they don't do email anymore. It's too old. It's too crusty.
I know.
So they're on the blue sky now. Okay, it's the Twitter replacement. Haven't you heard? So we don't have a presence there yet. But well,
I just want to throw it out there. If you got an email still, if you're still using that, that's a valid method. We'll take it.
If you're as old and crusty as me and Dan, you can always send us an email.
Gray beard.
Catching up.
All right, Leo.
Yeah.
Jeez.
What so do you see what you have convinced me to do?
Wow, who did what? Boy, what was I thinking?
So this is 100% Dan's fault.
All right.
But it might be entertaining, at least, right?
I think so.
So what have you forced us to do?
So, new season, new topics, that's coming. But the big thing is we're going to give you two for the price of one.
Oh, yeah.
Next distro that we're going to discuss in the history, it's a large one. Large. We're going way back to the beginning.
We did it with Slackware. We did it with Ubuntu. What do you mean? What's left? What could we possibly do, Dan?
We're going Debian. We're going to do it. We're going to do the one that we haven't done that is still one of the oldest, right there next to Slackware.
And Dan said before the show, as we were coming up to recording time, Dan said he was going to have an answer to the age-old question of which distro that is still being maintained is first. There's contention between two camps. The contention is between Slackware and Debian. Who was the first? Dan will have that answer for you in Season 2, Episode 4, with the Debian history. He's going to have the answer.
That's wrong. So it's season... You're already wrong. You're
going to lay the hammer down.
It's going to be Season 4, Episode 2.
What did I say?
Season 2, Episode 4. And so you could check on that one. I won't have the answer there for you, but that's just fine. That's perfect.
I had the numbers right. They were just transposed. It happens.
Please go look at that one too. It's a good episode. I don't remember what we talked about.
That was a good one. We were doing it opposite, so that was a topic episode of some kind.
Probably.
But
in all seriousness, I'm fairly sure it's Slackware, but I guess we had this question. When did the development start and what were we counting? Is the release when we started to count? I don't know. And we may never know because some of those things you can't find.
Well, no, you just ask Patrick.
Yeah, well, the version numbers don't matter, so it doesn't, just.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, the guy had Slackware 95. It's fine. Mm-hmm. Or 90. Yep. What I don't remember 90.
Yeah, it was. I think
you got to go back and listen to the Slackware episode to figure out which one I'm talking about because I don't even remember. But yeah, we got to ask Patrick who was first. Surely he would be a non-biased source to tell us.
Sure. Yeah, and I think Linus was first, so we're going with that.
Okay. Okay. It might be an exceedingly long one, and there's probably going to be a lot of contention within the history itself. Mm-hmm. So that one's going to be fun. It's going to work on the framework. It's going to work with Secure Boot. It's going to all be fine because not every distro can I run on the framework. I have to run on the machine behind me, the T450S, which it'll take anything. So that's going to be an interesting. That's going to be one of the most interesting parts about Debian for me.
I forgot to mention we're going to do 12, Debian 12. It won't. It's not quite released. They're predicting a June release, and so we might get a head start and run it on a few things. The early it's frozen right now, so very very frozen.
We've hit the hard freeze, but we haven't hit the full freeze yet. Right. So people can still slip in some. It's like
bug
a christened
things. Critical bug fixes could still land, and so but it's at a point where we can probably test things and certainly get a good handle on what history bits and stuff. So
yeah,
I think we're good for next season to start down that path. I've been hesitant up until this point to say we should do it, so here we are.
Well, we're gonna do it. We got to do it. But that's not all.
That is not all. We said we were going to give you two for the price of one.
So number 2 is it's going to be a not one episode thing. This is a distro that again is very very old, not quite as old as Debian, but is very old, and there's no way we can fit it in one. At least not the how'd it go, because you gotta wait so long.
It's an experience.
For some stuff to compile, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna go high performance with a really fast swimming penguin.
Yes, the Gen 2 penguin.
The Gen 2 penguin. He's the fastest.
So it's not gonna be episode 2. It's not gonna be episode 4. But we're forecasting already, right now, in Season 3, forecasting the season finale distro, which would be Season 4, Episode 20. Very last.
Yeah, that one.
episode of the season. It's going to be Gentoo. And so what we're going to do is in each topic episode, carve out about 5-10 minutes and kind of check in.
Yeah, how's it going?
What'd you compile last? What'd you do last? Did you break it? The answer to the did you break it question is probably going to be a lot.
Yeah, will be some start overs.
Yeah, I think both Dan and I agree we're going to start it in a VM.
For sure.
And kind of get the process down. I mean, the Gentoo wiki is good.
It is.
All of the documentation is really good. It's not like we need to break it, but I know that I am going to want a compiled kernel as opposed to the kernels that you can pull down. Just because if you're running Gentoo, you kind of have to. You should.
Well, we want to experiment because that's part of the process too, I feel like. So, you know, with that experimentation, you break a few eggs and, you know, you turn it into an omelet. I don't know.
Yeah. Something overheating your CPU. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
So we got the first one. We got the last one already all figured out. If you have opinions or you just really, really want to hear about a distro in any of the other even numbered episodes.
Somewhere in between.
Yeah, let us know.
All right, so stay tuned. You know, check out the Reddit, the Twitter, the Mastodon, Telegram, Matrix, Discord. You know, do check out the Twitch. We're going to do some live streams when we can over the break, for sure. This
would be a good time to transition. We got a couple of votes for transitioning over to live streaming on Tilvids.
Yeah, maybe we will. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you care? Do you not watch the live streams at all? You know, let us know where you want that to be. Because we certainly want to be where I think most people are.
We do.
So if you're in the audience, if you like the live streams, which are really just mini shows, and we're going to continue doing that.
A couple of our friends, we chat about some stuff, and oftentimes food comes up and whatnot. But
hey,
yeah, we talk.
I'm hungry at that time. What can I say?
Yeah, whatever you do, join the conversation. You know, we'll have all the links in the show notes on linuxuserspace.show.
So, Dan, we've made it through a whole other season. We've done it again. I don't know how we did it, but
we had some pauses. We had a season that was a tough one to get through.
It's been a season. Ooh-wee. But in the interim, while we're on break. While we're not pushing out shows in the transition to season 4, where can I find you out there on the web?
You can find me at KC2BEZ at mastodon.social and at KC2BEZ on Twitter.
And you can find me, same places, at Leo Chavez at mastodon.social and at Leo Chavez on the tweeters.
Stay tuned. We'll be back.
In a while. Cool.
It's a wrap. It's a season.
It's a season. Wow. It's all on tape. I don't know if it's on camera. I haven't gone back there to see whether or not it just decided to stop recording or not. But it's definitely on tape.
Oh, OBS got it.
Good. Dan, I need a mirror. You need to slap me. Because it's so simple to do. I could just get a mirror and it could show... Right, just so I could look and I could know.
Oh, yeah,
and
your phone?
It would cost me $4. I mean, honestly, I could probably find a mirror around here somewhere and a clip to do this with. I haven't. I don't know why. It is frustrating.
My display goes blank, and it's got a display on the front even, but it just, it goes off.
Well,
so I have no idea.
It's a single-purpose device. It does what it does. You press play, it plays.
It does.
It records, right?
Yeah.
But you press record, and it's my own fault. The last time it was because I ran out of storage,
right?
Because I stopped paying attention. Because apparently, 20 of these is too many.
Yeah, that's a fair
fills
bit,
up 128 gigs real good. So